Indian knowledge systems. So let me first share my screen with you, and please let me know when my screen is visible to you. Just give me a second. Just a minute back, I was the host, but now I'm not. Anyways, can somebody please confirm if my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tejas. Sir, thank you very much for confirming. So right now, I believe I'm in the edit mode. I should get into the slideshow mode. Can you see the slideshow mode? And is the screen moving to
Yes,
slideshow?
madam. Yes, madam.
Right, that's great.
Yes.
Okay, so for the next 1 hour, friends, we will be talking about the built-in practices of the Indian knowledge systems for the conservation of nature, biodiversity, and the overall environment, natural environment. Because there are certain ethics in these knowledge systems which are helpful and which are congruous with the ecological ethics. So, first things first, we get these knowledge systems from our ancient texts and scriptures like the Vedas, Upanishads, and the Puranas. We have ecological ethics in the Indian philosophy, and we have principles of sustainability in the texts, the philosophy, the folk songs, the folklore, and I am sure everybody here must have heard about the Panchatantra, the wisdom that we get from these stories about animals, which are very, very equivalent to the Aesop's fables in the Western culture, and the Kulliya Vadumna, that's what it is called in Persian. And they have all been translated into Persian in the medieval ages, and the Panchatantras are being explored by cultures and nations and lands and peoples outside India too. So there is a very strong historical perspective and philosophical foundation of the Indian knowledge systems that we draw from our philosophy, from our principles, from our folk songs and folk culture, from the tales that we have been telling by way of mouth, the oral tradition, the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Puranas, which happen to be the ancient texts and scriptures on which the Indian knowledge systems are based. Now, drawing from my own limited knowledge, my own limited knowledge, I have extracted for you these 8 principles. Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, Ahimsa, nature worship and pantheism, and sacred groves, afforestation, community conserved areas, the Bishnois, for example, were the first eco warriors, and the Sattvic regimen and Mitahara. And that's how I will end this session with you. We will dwell upon just this much. I know there would be a lot more, but I'm not confident about tapping that, because for that, I believe I need the angle of somebody who can decipher the scriptures from the original, and I'm not able to do that. So I will base uh, my lecture on these 8 principles. Okay. So first and foremost, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. The Indian belief that the whole world is one family. And when you believe that the whole world is one family, you believe in something called interconnectedness. The well being and the welfare and the health and happiness of one member depends on all the other members in a family. If there are four people, they are so interconnected with each other that if one is sick, the whole family is affected. If one is not happy, the whole family is affected. Now, when you think of the entire earth, the entire globe as one family, you don't behave like a selfish consumerist. You have the sense and sensibility and the sensitivity to behave like somebody who is concerned with the welfare of the other species as well as the other components of the planet. So, this is one concept that promotes global unity, emphasizing that all humans, animals, in nature are interconnected and they deserve mutual respect. And this philosophy fosters a sense of universal brotherhood and harmony, advocating for collective well being and coexistence. Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. Now, I'm going to show you two pictures. The first image depicts the ill conceived position of man vis a vis biodiversity in the Anthropocene. Now, this age, this time that we are living in, is very rightly called the Anthropocene. The Jurassic period was called the Jurassic period because it was a period that was dominated when the entire earth was dominated by the reptiles. They were the largest animals, the dinosaurs, they roamed the earth, but their period is over. And because that period is over, what has emerged out of it now is this Anthropocene, where we as humans are dominating the earth. So, in the Anthropocene, there are two conditions, there are two scenarios for human behavior. One is the ill conceived notion, and there it is in front of you. Mankind thinks that it is on top of all creation, and all creation has been sent on the planet to serve man. And without being concerned about the survival, well being, thriving of any other species, man can continue to progress by trampling everything. What are we doing? We are trampling all other plants and animals, forests and wetlands and woodlands and grasslands. That's what we're doing. If we have decided to travel even higher than the birds, decided to fly even higher than the birds. On the other hand, the land ethic, this was the wrong presupposition. And on the other hand, this is the picture of how we should be behaving. Giving equal rights to all species, plants, animals, and humans. in their respective natural habitat, wherever they have been created, so that they can flourish, so that they can thrive. And despite possessing the know how for making technological progress, uh, by destroying Earth's natural resources, by disturbing the ecosystem balance, and by devastating the the essential ecological services, we should not do that. And we will not do that when we believe in Vasudev Kutumbakam. The next principle, as I said, is ahimsa or non-violence. This is a knowledge system that puts great emphasis on non-violence. It's against killing of any living being, any organism, any species. So ahimsa as a core principle in Indian knowledge system emphasizes non-violence and compassion towards all living beings. It advocates for the ethical treatment of animals and recognizes their intrinsic value and rights to live free from all harm. So, this philosophy aligns with modern animal rights movements and promotes coexistence and respect for all. Very similar to the philosophy of Vasudev Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, people. 2 years back when our country was hosting the G20 meet, 2 years back, this was our motto. When all the G20 nations had come to India, this was the motto. So, friends, I want to tell you from my own experience that I have worked in protected areas, and I am very well aware of the situation in the protected areas. The main conflict that we face when we are trying to protect the endangered species, say for example the tiger, there are threats like poaching, there are threats like habitat destruction. Now, poaching is something that goes undercover. A lone forest guard with the limited infrastructure that the forest department is giving him, facilities and equipment, is not capable of defending the species against the poachers. Now, how do the poachers do it? The poachers do it by engaging with the local people. They offer them a share in the proceeds and they get it done because even they can't go hunting for an endangered species, for a tiger or something, unless and until some local wisdom is on their side. Okay. Now, if the people of that village, if the people who live around that protected area, these are also called ecosystem people, if they are believing in ahimsa parmo dharma, and they do not favor the poaching of the tiger, they will never side with the poachers, and by their own belief systems, they will be helping the forest department, the conservation agencies, the NGOs, the researchers. That's what belief does. And that's the impact of faith on people's actions. And when we are doing something from a public organ, we cannot ignore the public. So if there are people around a protected area, who are favoring the protection of the endangered species, because the Indian knowledge systems that they believe in, that's what they have been taught, then these are the people who are not a threat to conservation, who are not a threat to the endangered species, who are not a threat to biodiversity. And biodiversity is an important part of the human environment, the environment that we need to conserve, the environment that we need to protect. Next is, friends, as you can see, nature worship and pantheism. We all know that this is a system that sees the divine in every entity of nature, be it trees, be it plants, be it big animals, small animals, because they have all been created by the divine supreme. This is one system that sees the divine supreme in every creature. Now, many of these species that are found in nature are threatened. They may be critically extinct, they may be endangered, they may be threatened, they may be vulnerable, they may be data deficient, they may be least concern. But over the years of devastating nature, because of the needs of development, because of the industrial revolution and its pressures on natural ecosystems, natural resources, we have come to a time today where some threatened species that have been included by the IUCN in the Red Data book or in one of the categories of threats, near threatened, threatened, endangered, critically endangered, or near extinct, extinct. These are all categories that are population, based on population biology. Now, when a particular community worships one of these species, then this community will never harm that species, and then the public and the state and the scientists will never have to make a special effort in protecting that species. or defending that species from poachers or from land sharks. Or, you know, never have to do that. We all know the monkeys are worshipped. We all know the elephants are worshipped. The people tree is worshipped. The tulsi plant is worshipped. Now, even if the monkeys become menacing, even if the monkeys become menacing, a menacing lot, the people of Mathura, it's a city, a holy city very close to where I live. It's famous for pilgrimage, for the Krishna Bhakta. What even the menacing monkeys are not killed. Even the menacing monkeys are fed, given food, given drink. Even the menacing monkeys are not shooed away from the temples. So that's the impact of nature worship. Even if a people tree is coming in the way of a road expansion, the people tree will not be cut. There are so many species of plants and animals, not exactly animals, I don't, or maybe not many, let's say, but majorly plants, which are used in rites and rituals and spiritual and uh, religious ceremonies. So many. The camphor, vape is infused in the incense. The tulsi plant occupies a very prominent position in every household. During winters, the a ceremony called Tulsi Vivah, that is the wedding of the goddess of basil, that is conducted. There are homes where the first roti that they make in the morning is given to the cow. Love for animals because they see God in the animals. And here in India, now I want you to focus at this beautiful quote by Mark Twain, which is what he said about India. The great American writer, Mark Twain, who also said that East is East and West is West, and never the twain shall meet. He said this is a country of paradoxes. The country of 100 nations and 100 tongues, of 1,000 religions and 2 million gods. The country of 100 nations and 100 tongues, of 1,000 religions and 2 million gods. Cradle of the human race, birthplace of human speech, mother of history, grandmother of legend, great grandmother of traditions, whose yesterdays bear date with the murdering antiquities for the rest of nations. The one sole country under the sun that is endowed with an imperishable interest for alien prince and alien peasant, for lettered and ignorant, wise and fool, rich and poor, bond and free, the one land that all men desire to see, and having seen once by even a glimpse, would not give that glimpse for the shows of all the rest of the world combined. That is what is said about India. That is what a country is. 100 nations and 100 tongues. 1,000 religions and 2 million gods. So, of these 2 million gods, majority are plants and animals. They are natural species, non-human species that have abounded in the forests, lakes, mountains, rivers, even the barren pastures of our country. So when we see a genie and a giant, when we see, tigers, elephants, cobras in the jungle, we see the divine in it and we don't harm it. This culture, this tradition is in the background of the present day devastation of nature for ill conceived development. So we have completed three principles. Three principles so far. I hope my pace and the content I'm sharing is fine with you, and I hope I'm able to communicate the message. Or do you have any questions, any observations? So the next principle I'm going to share with you is the principle of the sacred grooves. Just like in the case of nature worship, the people of this country, the tribals, the villagers, just like they have been worshipping nature, holding their hands and making offerings to trees and elephants and tiger and cobra. In the same vein, those areas where these species dwell, the forests, the mountains, the hills, the thickets, the woodlots, even the lakes and streams and rivers, and also just a little assemblage of rocks, some rock formations, some ancient rock formations. Some special areas, owing to their religious significance, which could be an association with a deity or which could be an association with their dead ones and their souls, or which could be just an association with a special time of the year, like the solstice or like the equinox in the spring and autumn and winter and summer. For some reason or the other, a large area with trees and plants and animals and a water body and some bushes, and I mean, any place has been held as a sacred grove. Okay, it's been held as a sacred grove. People do not harm any natural entity in these groves. They enter the sacred groves with a lot of respect. With a lot of respect. And they do not even take out from it as much as a blade of grass. They will not burn the grasses there. They will not even collect honey from the sacred grove. They will not cut the trees there. They will not kill the animals there. The only reason that they will go there for is to worship their deity, whatever that deity happens to be. And these sacred groves are found all over the country, in the northeastern Himalayas, in the western Ghats, in the east, at the east coast. Here where I live, around Aligarh, we have a sacred grove called the Achal Tal. It's a very old lake. We have so many sacred groves in the city of Mathura, Nidhivan and Radhavan and all those forests and woodlots that are associated with Lord Krishna. For some of them, it is even believed that at night the gopis and the Lord Krishna, they are all there and they perform the Ras Leela. Now, nobody is daring to cut the trees. Nobody is daring to kill an animal. Nobody is daring to take a bulldozer in there or drain a wetland or drain a river. And this bears its origin in the deep rooted Indian tradition, where there are three kinds of forests: the Tapovan, Mahavan, and Srivan. Tapovan are forests associated with penance and are inhabited by saints and rishis. Mahavan refers to the grand natural forest. So Tapovan and Mahavan are considered to be a raksha or a sanctuary for flora and fauna. And ordinary human beings are not allowed to enter these forests. Srivan means forest of the goddess of prosperity. It consists of dense forests and groups, and the authority on the work of sacred groves, actually, the very term sacred groves was given by the great ecological mathematician uh, Madhav Gadgil. He was from your state. I'm sure many of you would have heard about him. And along with V.G. Vartak of the Bombay Natural History Society, he worked on the sacred groves of the Uttar Kannada and the Dakshin Kannada districts in Karnataka. And he came up with very interesting theories. And he highlighted the significance of the sacred groves for the conservation of nature and natural resources in India. Beyond the protected area network, beyond the national parks and beyond the sanctuaries and beyond the there are two more categories of protected areas in our country. One is the conservation reserve, and another is the community reserve. We will talk about the community reserve and the community conserved areas in this very lecture. Next, I'll do that. So these are age old traditions that we had not taken notice of. The man who's called the father of forestry in India is actually a German forester named Dr. Dietrich Brandes. And he was the first Inspector General of the Forest of India during the colonial British Raj. Dietrich Brandes. The Forest Research Institute of India in Dehradun has his strong footmarks. They give a Brandes Prize also to foresters. And he was the one who was responsible for tapping the resources in the Indian forests and bringing them in the economy. So in 1887, you know what he says? He says very little has been published regarding sacred groves in India, but they are, or rather were, very numerous. And these, as a rule, are not touched by the axe, except when wood is wanted for the repair of religious buildings. So, have you heard of any sacred groves in Maharashtra? Any one of you?
Hello, am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, yes, please.
This is Vaibhav from SSBT College of Engineering and Technology.
Very good to hear from you, sir. Please go ahead.
In here, Maharashtra,
Uh-huh.
so there is a Tapovan from the era of Ramayana. It is called Tapovan in Nashik. So
Okay.
you maybe heard about the Panchavati.
Uh-huh.
Panchavati. So it is also belong from the very ancient era of the India.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's a sacred grove. Wonderful to know that. Thank you. Sapovan in Nasik. Great. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Would you like to throw some light on how Maharashtra could be having some sacred groves? Because this entire work on the sacred groves of India that we have today, the entire credit goes to a Maharashtrian, Madhav Gadgil. I have great respect for him. Madhav Gadgil and V.G. Vartak, and also Madhav Gadgil and Ramchandra Guha. And there are such forests all over the country. If you go to the northeastern Himalayas, especially Meghalaya and Mizoram, you will find that the entire cave or the entire mountain has been declared as sacred, and the tribals, the people who live there, they have marked some of the rocks and hills with symbols that are associated with their ancestors who are dead. And on special days, say for example, a full moon night, or the spring equinox, or the autumn equinox, or the summer solstice, or the winter solstice, they come to these rocks invoking the spirits of their dead ancestors. And that's why these rocks are important. So, sacred groves have been very significant from the Indian knowledge systems for the conservation of ecological resources. Now, friends, we've been talking a lot about plants and animals, and forests. So let's not miss the trees for the forests. This is a time of global warming. This is a time of climate change. This is a time of pollution. It has started affecting our daily life. People are getting sick because of climate change. Greta Thunberg, that little girl in Europe who's a climate activist, she wants change so that people stop falling sick and people stop dying because of the diseases that are caused due to climate change. And one important step, which is very simple and which is no rocket science, I must say. You know, what do you need to do to preserve the population of tigers? It's no rocket science. We need policy. We need implementation. We need socio-political will to be able to do that, right? So, my dear friends, we need trees. There is no second thought about that. If we have to check desertification, if we have to check climate change, global warming, anything, we need trees. Now look at how the Indian knowledge systems have inculcated the value of planting trees and keeping trees and maintaining trees and not cutting trees and living our lives around trees. So in the beginning, we said that the origin of these Indian knowledge systems is from the Vedas and Puranas and the Upanishads. I'm just giving you one small example from the Purana, the Matsya Purana. And there may be plenty more, right? Which emphasize the relevance of trees for our own well-being on the planet Earth. I will cite for you just one shloka, which has such an astounding manifestation that it even goes to the extent of saying that one tree equals 10 suns. One tree equals 10 suns. And how beautifully it has promulgated. Let us see. This shloka says, Dashakupa samavapi, Dashavapi samohridaha. 10 wells are equal to one pond. And one pond is equal to 10 ponds are equal to one step well, Baudi, Samohrita, Dashvapi Samohrita. 10 wells is equal to one pond. 10 ponds is equal to one step well. 10 step wells are equal to one sun. 10 step wells are equal to one sun. Dashahrid samah putro. Dashputra means son. And look at that startling turn that this shloka takes here. Dashputra samo drumah. 10 sons equal one son. So this is a culture, 10 sons equal one tree. Sorry. 10 sons equal one tree. So this is a culture which is so carefully and thoughtfully over a period of long time given results from experiences, from traditional wisdom. And if it is saying that one tree equals 10 sons, who will be foolish enough to cut one tree? Who wants to kill 10 sons? Right? We are losing sons because we are losing trees. The sixth principle I wanted to share with you was that of community conserved areas. We've already talked about sacred groves. Now, the difference between sacred groves and community conserved areas is this, that communities conserve a sacred grove, but they do not use any of the natural resources. But here, there are places where communities are conserving the area in its natural state for subsistence mode use in a very sustainable manner. They don't destroy it, they don't overuse it, they don't overexploit it, they maintain it in the natural state, but at the same time, they also draw their own economic benefits. Now, this has since 2002 or later, I don't remember, this has become one of the important categories of protected areas in our country. These are regions managed by local communities for the preservation of biodiversity and heritage, and they reflect indigenous knowledge and practices, fostering sustainable conservation efforts. They empower the communities, they protect the endangered species, and promote harmony between humans and nature. Now, the most beautiful example of a community conserved area in India is again from your state. Have you heard of the Mendhalekha village in the Gadchiroli district of Maharashtra? Mendhalekha? Anybody from Gadchiroli here? Participants? No?
No, madam, nobody is from Gadchiroli in our college.
But have you heard about
Gadchiroli we are knowing, but we have not heard about that Mendha Lekha.
Mendhalekha? You haven't heard about.
But Gadchiroli we know it, the place.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Thank you so much for that answer. Mendhalekha is a village in acres and acres of land, which is 95% forest and natural ecosystem, but which is an economic republic of its own. And the people of that village are in no mood of destroying their forest and natural heritage, because out of those systems, by using traditional tribal wisdom, they are keeping their economy safe and sustainable, both. And this was one of the first villages to have been listed as a community conserved area. Now, they do not belong to any kind of Sanatan parampara or any kind of uh, you know, very, very established religion. They are tribals. But despite that, they know what it is to respect nature and to own their land for their own benefits without letting it be destroyed for industrial purposes by people who have industrial interests. Community conserved area. Now, at present, I think there are about 220 community conserved areas all over the country. I once worked very deeply with this project. It was again initiated by somebody who had worked at the Indian Institute of Public Administration in Delhi, but then his name is Mr. Ashish Kothari. But then he goes to Pune, again, your state, I must say, where he establishes an NGO called the Kalpa Vriksha. Kalpa Vriksh. I hope all of you know. The Kalpa Vriksha is one tree which gives out every part of its body for some utility purpose or the other. So the Kalpa Vriksha is an NGO that they formed, and a nationwide massive, massive project uh, for identifying community conserved areas, for listing them, their practices, their people, and also their recognition by the government as a community conserved area. So the difference between a sacred grove and a community conserved area is that from the sacred grove, wood will be taken only when there's some repair or construction of a religious building is required. But from a community conserved area, regularly, incessantly, economic benefits can be drawn by the local people with the strict and strong condition that overuse, misuse, and overexploitation of natural resources will not be done, and the status of the natural heritage will be maintained as such, right? So this is one village which is a model community conserved area, the Mendalekha in Gadchiroli. And just like we've been talking about community conserved areas, there's also a very fine example of entire communities which are working like eco warriors. Now, this is an award that we give to a community called the Bishnois. Bishnois. They are found in and around Delhi, Haryana, Rajasthan. That's where they have been populated. And in the 15th, 16th century, this is a community that was founded by Shri Guru Jambheshwar. He was a spiritual leader. He founded them on a set of 29 principles, which are called Unatis Niyamas, 20 or no, 20 plus 9. That's why they are called Bishnoi. 20 plus 20 plus 9 is 29. So they call, and this is the total number of niyamas on the basis of which they have been organized, they've been constituted. 8 are for sustainable environment practices, biodiversity, and conservation and animal husbandry. 8 out of 21 practices, niyamas, is, just like the 10 commandments of the Jews. 29 niyamas. And based on these 20 plus 9 niyamas, they get their name also. Bishnoi. Bis and no. The Bishnois are very, very protective about plants and animals wherever they are. So as I said, mostly they are in the region of Haryana, and Rajasthan and Delhi. They coexist with the black buck, you know, the black buck, Kala Hiran as we call it. So they're coexisting with the black buck. And they're protecting the black buck like their own son. Even if the female, the deer, the doe, even if she has died and she leaves behind a suckling baby, the Bishnoi women will allow the suckling baby to suckle on their own breasts so that it doesn't die. I have seen videos of Bishnoi women making roti, and there comes a small black buck fawn, and they take out a feeder bottle with a nipple in it and they hold it out to the black buck fawn so that it lives. How 8 out of 29 of their niyamas are pro uh, animal husbandry and environmental conservation and biodiversity protection. There's one more beautiful example. They don't wear blue clothes because at that time, for dyeing any piece of cloth blue, a large number of shrubs had to be damaged to obtain the dye, the blue dye. So their guru, the great Guru Jambeshwar, he prohibited them from wearing blue clothes because that at that time chemical dye was not in use. It was not the age of the chemical dyes. So all these people they stopped wearing blue clothes. They had to damage shrubs to obtain blue colored dye. Cutting trees for Bishnois is prohibited by their religion, by their guru, by their commandments. They have a set of 29 commandments. Just like Moses came down with a set of 10 commandments for practicing Judaism. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not indulge in adultery. And all religious books are actually a set of commandments, set of do's and don'ts. Let's do this, let's not do that. One of the commandments that are valid for the Bishnoi people is not to cut the trees. Prohibited, banned. And they have also been instructed to collect firewood without burning insects. Not to cut trees for firewood and not to lop trees for firewood and headloads, lopping, no, but only to collect firewood without burning insects. All that reduces the carbon footprint actually, greatly reduces the carbon footprint. And I've already told you about their love for the black buck, the antelope cervicapra, which is not actually a deer. It's an antelope, just like the nilgai. Sorry, my phone rang. I will check that later. Can you still see my screen? Just a minute. I don't know what went wrong with my. I can't see my screen. I can't change it for you. Yeah. So I was telling you about the Bishnoi people, and these are the same people who were responsible for taking the high-profile Bollywood actor Salman Khan to court just because there was a case of black buck shooting on him. And starting from the 15th and 16th century, these are the people who are still upholding their 29 niyamas, the niyamas that actually give them their name. And last but not the least is, we are what we eat. And what we eat will define how we keep the planet. So there is a certain diet called the planetary diet. It finds a lot of commonality with the Sattvic diet regimen and Mitahara, the Jains and the many sadhus and sant, they believe in eating very little, small quantity of food, very small portion. That is called portion control. Portion control these days. And all dietitians will tell you portion control. How it helps the earth and its natural resources, especially the land resources, it puts less pressure for chemical agricultural production of large quantity of food grades, large quantity of vegetables, and a large quantity of oil seeds. So the principles of the Sattvic diet or the Mitahara happen to be moderation in eating everything, but in very small quantity. Mitahara, small ahar, alpahar, going more for seasonal fruits, nuts, seeds, oils, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains. Why is it good for the environment? Because we're cutting down on food miles. If you're having imported exotic food, we are adding on food miles, which is certainly happening because of excessive carbon emission. If it was not for the carbon driven automobiles and aircrafts, we would have had, we would have been living in times where there is no addition of food miles to any product that lands on our tables. Absolutely no addition of food miles. But the fact that we have access to carbon emission is responsible for all these food miles being added to our foods. And when it comes to Sattvic diet, we find that the principle of non-violence is also built in the Sattvic diet, which exemplifies ahimsa. So, essential, natural, vital, clean, conscious, true, honest, wise food choices that put less pressure on the planet, that do not include too much of carbon intensive grain in our diets. That is what Sattvic diet regimen and the Mitahara is. And that is also what the planetary diet is. It's a new concept. Planetary diet is a very new concept. Just like the planetary boundaries and the planet overshoot day and others, this is a new concept. I will request that all of you should explore the planetary diet as much as possible, because everything that is good for the planet is also good for the health of those who are consuming that food. You go to any doctor these days with diabetes, with any lifestyle disease, cardiovascular trouble, hypertension, they'll tell you to lose weight. And the best way to lose weight is by reducing your portion size, by eating everything in moderation, whatever you have around you. By eating, today I'm referring to so many Maharashtrians I'm really grateful to. There's a very popular dietitian, Rujuta Divekar. She's written a book called Don't Lose Your Mind, Lose Weight, wherein she says, don't go for fancy diets and don't negate everything to yourself. All you need to do is practice moderation and include all Indian grains and fruits and vegetables that have been growing in the currently in season, and that have been growing around you locally. So eat local, eat natural, eat seasonal. That's the planetary diet. And it has huge commonality with the Sattvic regimen and with the Sattvic diet, which is again a part of the Indian knowledge systems. So the emphasis on eating oats and millets these days instead of refined carbohydrates, all that is going into making you healthy, but all that is also going into making you uh, extremely environmental conscious and totally in sync with the Indian knowledge systems. So these were the 8 principles I wanted to share with you, friends. We have come to an end. Uh, in summary, the key points that we have pondered upon today, starting with Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, nature worship, ahimsa parmo dharma, emphasis on planting trees, sacred groves, community conserved areas, community conservation, communities of eco warriors like the Bishnois, and finally the sattvic diet and Mitahara. They are all key important points of the Indian knowledge systems, and if upheld, even in the present modern times, they give us some lead or the other for protecting our natural resources, for maintaining our ecological balance, and for safeguarding our environment for a better future, for sustainable growth and for sustainable development. So that's the relevance of ecological ethics in the modern times. The Indian knowledge systems have a proven significance for environmental conservation, and we should encourage sustainable living practices as well as in our role as teachers. We should be promoting the awareness and education on IKS, taking the message to our students, taking the message to the community that we belong to, that is the community of teachers in higher education institutions, be it colleges, be it universities, even be it the standalone institutions, the IITs and ISERs, etc., wherever we are. It is important that with a renewed sense of awareness, we promote the sensitization on the Indian knowledge systems, if not as a part of the curriculum, then at least as part of our research focus, some thrust, and of course, at least as part of our co-curricular and co-scholastic activities. So thank you, my dear friends. I think I have reached the end of my time. If there are any questions, if there are any observations, I want to thank the the participant who told me about the Sapovan in the Nasik district. I will add it to my list of this discussion. And if you have anything else that you would like to add to this, you're most welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Participants having if any questions or queries or some kind of observation addition, you can please tell to us here or directly Professor Abbasi, ma'am. Please. Then we can go for the next session. I think there are no specific queries or the questions. So if you could,
Okay.
can we conclude, ma'am?
Yes, please, let us conclude.
So on behalf of Malviya Mission Teacher Training Centers and Gadge Baba Amravati University, College of Engineering and Technology, Bambori Jalgaon, and all the participants, I extend my sincere thanks to Professor Abbasi ma'am for elaborating our concept towards the adoption of these ethical practices and the importance of this IKS, that is the Indian Knowledge System, which is one of the integral theme of this flagship program and one of the most important verticals of our national education policy. Ma'am, we are really thankful to you. From the very basic concept, you have elaborated a very vast concept in a very simplest way. So we are really thankful to you for your precious time and thought-provoking session here. And with the kind consent of Professor Abbasi ma'am, I would like to declare that this first session will be over here. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
My pleasure and my best wishes to everyone. God bless you. Take care.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, so participant, I think we should go for the next session. Our next expert has joined with us. Hello, Professor Suresh, ma'am.
Yes, very good afternoon.
Yeah, very good afternoon, madam. Very good afternoon. If you could permit, shall we start with the next session now?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
If
So,
participants don't need a break, yeah, we can.
thank you, ma'am. So, good afternoon, friends, once again. As I have earlier told you that the today's session have been split into the two different parts. First part, at most we have completed, but the another part, it is rather than different, but it is interconnected. Friends, you know that the research that we are carried out at our institution, at our in our collaboration, the perspective of the research has been changed, and now we are moving towards the collaborative research, transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary research, where we are conducting the research in our subject domain. But rather than the subject domain, now we should require to conduct this kind of researches for the betterment of our society. And the societal oriented research must be there. So in this era, you can seen that the number of research projects or whatever may be the research project that has been provided by different funding agencies, they are focusing on the transdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary, interdisciplinary research. So in this session, we're going to discuss this much important aspect, that is the research and development in the recent era, with the help of one of renowned researcher and the senior expert, Professor Preeti Suresh, Professor Preeti Suresh, ma'am. Ma'am, first of all, I extend my warm welcome on behalf of Malvi Mission Teacher Training Center, Sant Gadge Baba, Amravati University, College of Engineering and Technology, Bhambori, Jalgaon, and all the participants. Friends, Professor Suresh, ma'am, it is a distinguished pharmaceutical scientist, academic leader, and the professor of the University Institute of Pharmacy at the Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University, Raipur, situated in the Chhattisgarh. She holds a postdoctoral fellowship from the Kobe Going University, Japan in 2005, PhD from Dr. Hari Singh Gaur Vishwavidyalaya, and the M.Pharm Pharmaceutics with a marital position in the B.Pharm degree with a marital position, reflecting her consistency, strong academic records. Before joining this Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University, she has also served engaged with the Jivaji University, Gwalior, Dr. Hari Singh Gaur Vishwavidyalaya, that is a central university situated in the Sagar, Guru Ghasidas Vishwavidyalaya, that is also a central university situated in the Bilaspur, in the various capacities, including as a professor, director of the University Institute of Pharmacy, and currently serving as a director of this Malvi Mission Teacher Training Center at Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University. Her area of specialization is the novel drug discovery system and the nano carrier for the drug delivery application, with the major research contribution in the oral peptide delivery, ocular drug delivery, lipid and polymer based nano carrier, and control targeted delivery system. She brings over 3 decades of teaching and the research experiences, including the postdoctoral research across the leading universities. Professor Suresh ma'am has successfully guided PhD and MPhil scholars and has undertaken the multiple sponsored and the institutional research project in advanced drug delivery and the nanomedicine. She has impressive publication records comprising the more than 100 research papers in the national and the international peer-reviewed journal, 3 book chapter, and the several popular science articles. Her excellence has been recognized through the various prestigious awards that include the Dr. Eric Drexler Gold Medal for the Best Scientific Paper Presentation at Nanotech India in 2009, and the Mastimuel International Foundation Research Fellowship in the Japan, and the CSIR Senior Research Fellowship. She is a registered pharmaceutical pharmacist with the Chhattisgarh Pharmaceutical Council. Professor Suresh ma'am has made a significant contribution to the academic governance and the professional services, serving as a member of the Academic Council, chairperson, and the member of the Board of Studies, member of the Examination Committee, and the editor of CWS Update, that is the Center for Women's Studies newsletter. She is also the reviewer of the several high-impact international journals in the nanomedicine and the drug delivery, and frequently serve as an expert member on the research committee of the different universities. She is actively engaged in the international and the national scientific forum. Professor Suresh ma'am has presented over 50 papers in the conferences, delivered numerous lectures, chaired technical sessions, and contributed as a resource person in the different UGC, AICT, DBT sponsored workshop and the program. She is the life member of the Indian Pharmaceutical Association, Association of the Pharmaceutical Teachers of the India, and the International Foundation of Japan. Most important thing is that the Professor Suresh ma'am is the member of the steering committee that has been constituted by the Chhattisgarh state government for the implementation of this national education policy. So friends, we are luckily fortunate to get such kind of very senior and scholarly personality to enlighten us on a very important topic, that is the research and development. So let us warmly join me to warmly welcome Professor P.T. Suresh ma'am. Ma'am, I extend warm once again on behalf of all the participants and request you to please start with your session. Ma'am, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. It was a very kind and generous introduction, and also a very humbling one. But I should share it here that I am just one of you, just a teacher, a faculty member in an higher educational institution. And I have this privilege and opportunity to be here amongst the teachers from the various universities and institutes who are here for this NEP orientation and sensitization program. And for that, I would like to thank Professor Mohammad Atiq sir, Director MMTTC at the Sant Gadke Baba Amravati University, for inviting me and giving this opportunity to share some of my understandings and perspectives on the theme that we are going to discuss today. And during the session, I would definitely like to also hear to your perspectives, or there may be some best practices that you may have been adopting at your level, at your institution. And if you deem fit, please share that for the benefit of all of us. And before I start, I would also like to know from the participants, like whether I should continue in English or should it be a mix of Hindi and English, bilingual. What will you prefer? Yes, please. Yes, should I continue in English?
Any language, ma'am. Hindi and
Okay,
English means both. Okay.
both. Okay, but I just wanted to know if there are someone who do not follow Hindi. That's all I wanted to know.
I don't know, ma'am.
Yeah, okay then. I'll try to keep it maximum in English, right? So this is the NEP orientation and sensitization program, and as you know, in July this year, we will be completing 6 years since this policy document was released, and it has been implemented across the higher educational institutions. And because higher education is in the concurrent list, and if you remember, concurrent list means that it is governed both by the central government and the state government. So different states have been implementing at different speeds or different levels. And some states have been quick to adopt it. Some have taken time to, by taking a few of the recommendations and trying to implement in their institutions. So, with that pretext, I would just like to give you a glimpse of the university where I'm presently associated with, which is Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University, which is located in the capital city of Chhattisgarh, Raipur. And another purpose for exposing this screen to you is also to share with you the motto of our university, which is derived from one of the ancient texts, that is Isha Upanishad, which says Agne Nae Supatha Rai. And if we go by its translation, it means, O fire or O Agni, lead us on a virtuous path to prosperity. कि हे अग्नि हमें सन्मार्ग से समृद्धि की ओर ले चल. So that means, and I hope all the teachers, all of us, in whatever capacities or in whichever institutions we may be working we all will be able to identify with this, because ultimately, as teachers, our primary objective remains to empower the students who are coming within to our campuses, to make sure that they have the requisite skills that will be helpful for them to be able to lead a prosperous life. But at the same time, it is also our moral responsibility to ensure that we are able to inculcate in them the values which are very important, which are sometimes overlooked, I should say, because prosperity itself will not serve the purpose. There also has to be some virtuousness that has to be associated with it. So, with that, the theme that has been assigned to me, that is research and development, and during the next, I should say, 70 to 80 minutes, I would just like to highlight some of the points which are here mentioned in the screen. Now, before I proceed further, I would definitely, I hope that all of you have gone through the National Education Policy document, because till now, whenever I'm interacting with other teachers and all, many a times I observe that large majority of the teachers in the higher educational institutions, we have not gone through the policy document. And this is very important. And again, I would like to emphasize, if you have gone through it, it is very good and highly appreciable. And in case if you haven't gone through this program, while you are attending this program, it is an opportunity where you should always take time to go through the policy document, because we have to understand like what are the recommendations that have been made up by the committee which has framed this policy, what are the various provisions that we will have to include in our higher education system, and also, most importantly, we will have to understand the spirit behind this policy. And if you have gone through this policy, you might have observed that this is a very critical document. Critical in the sense it is very critically analyzing the what are the various issues that have been affecting our higher education system. One of the major points that has been highlighted, that is the fragmented structure of our higher education system. That means that we have classified ourselves into different disciplines, and we have drawn boundaries around ourselves, and we do not mingle or with the people from the other disciplines. Mingle in the sense there is no academic interactions between the different disciplines, and the students are also pushed into, I should say, specialization and super specialization. There is nothing wrong about it, because that ultimately helps us to develop a domain specific knowledge within the student. But at the same time, it has also been observed, while we are streaming the students into very narrow areas of specialization, sometimes the student fails to have a holistic view of any issue or any concern or any problem for which they may have to offer a solution. And this specifically arises because when we are studying, or when we are uh, belonging to a particular discipline, we have that bias to look only from the perspective, from the expertise that our discipline offers to us. And that is one of the major concerns, right? Another concern is due to the major emphasis, I should say, in our educational system has been, it has been more of a teacher-centric system, whereas teachers, we are provided with a syllabus, we go to the classrooms, and our major aim always has been to complete the syllabus before the examination. But at the end of that particular course, what are the skills that the students should develop, that was somehow missed upon. But during the last few years, we can see as now we have implemented the outcome-based education, now we are slowly moving towards the where the focus is more on what are the skills that the students are acquiring at the end of a course or at the end of the program, what are the attainment levels of the students, that also is now being focused upon. Another concern has been due to the diversity in the nature of the institutions. This diversity exists not only in terms of the nature of the programs that the institutions are offering, but also in terms of the infrastructure or the facilities that the institutions are having. So, on one end of the spectrums, we have premier institutions like IITs or IIMs or even central universities or other institutes, and even you can say state universities also to an extent. But on the other side of the spectrum, the majority of our institutions are located in socio-economically challenged areas. These institutions do not have the requisite infrastructure. They do not, they have very few number of teachers who are running the show. And even if these teachers are very enthusiastic and they want to implement some new things, they do not have the flexibility or autonomy to do so, because as a part of the higher education system, we all are bound by the various laws, acts, statutes, ordinances of the university, which doesn't give us flexibility. And as I said, even though if the teachers may be very enthusiastic, they may want to implement some new courses, they may want to adopt some new practices, the people higher end, on the higher end, whether they are the principals or the HODs or the directors or the deans, they do not give enough freedom for the to the teachers to try all these new things. And also another issue has been due to the structure of the higher educational institutions that we are having, because we have these large affiliating universities, and under one university there may be hundreds of colleges, right? In some universities there may be only more than 500, 600, 700 institutions, and this large number of institutions makes it very difficult for the affiliating university to strictly monitor and regulate the activities which are uh, run through these institutions. And the major sufferer in this case is basically the undergraduate education. But since in today's session, our major focus is on research and development, that is also one of the major concerns, because in a majority of our institutions, the focus is not on research. In 1924-25, Ernest and Young, they had they had reported, they had report in their report, they have mentioned that we have in India around 56,845 higher educational institutions, both private and government institutions. And out of these large number of institutions, only 850 institutions are focused on research. So that means only 1.5% of our higher educational institutions are engaged in some or the activity which are governed through research. And the major reason for this is the lack of funding, because research is a very fund intensive activity. You require funds to run the research. You need funds to for the procurement of the equipments, for the there are also recurring costs are also involved. And without the funds, it becomes very difficult for the institutions, especially those based on science and technology, to pursue research. So these are what the concerns have been expressed in the higher education, in the national education policy. And we see how the national education policy has recommended to bring about many new changes in our higher education ecosystem, whether it is the emphasis is now more on multidisciplinary education. Multidisciplinarity means that we are offering the choices to the student whether they want to study a combination of the subjects, because for now we know if a student has opted for science, they cannot study, take one subject from say humanities, is one from vocational education. There is very limited choices are being there. So that has been now addressed through national education policy. Similarly, you will see that there is now more focus on skill development, where internship has been made an integral part of the programs. There is provision for a student can earn the credits through certain projects. And with respect to research, there was one more declaration that was made, that there will be an establishment of the NRF, that is the National Research Foundation. Now, before I go further, I would just like to emphasize that any higher educational institution, if it aspires to achieve the status of a great institution, it has to focus on 5 core elements. These 5 core elements include not only the teaching and learning, which is certainly the major focus of any higher education institution. It also has to focus on synthesis and creativity. It has to provide the platforms for the students to explore their uh, creativity, their innovation potential, whatever they are having, that platform have to be provided. They also should have opportunity to understand and engage with the different stakeholders, and also about the how the higher education, uh, whatever the skills or the knowledge that the students are acquiring, or whatever new knowledge that is being created within our campuses, that should also benefit the society. The uh, and that has to be done through certain extension activities or certain outreach activities. That is also very important. And this entire exercise, research and discovery, is also an important component. So, if you see, and any higher education institution cannot overlook the potential of research and discovery. So, I would just like to know from the participants, like, what do you think is basically research? What is research? Yes, if some of you can unmute. What is basically research? Because I'm unable to see anyone. Everyone's cameras are switched off. So at least you can respond. What is basically research? And also, I would like to know, like, from which disciplines are there in this group? Participants are from only from the engineering background, or we have also from other basic sciences and humanities? Yes, please respond.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Engineering and
Basically,
pharmacy.
research.
Okay.
Vaibhav from Engineering and Technology College, SSBT.
Okay. Yeah.
According to me, ma'am, research it is a systematic process, ma'am, where you discover new information, uncovering facts, data, and scientific breakthroughs.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Anyone would like to add something to it? So research, I should say, it is. Thank you for that input. And if you say research, research is a very systematic investigation, right? And in this exercise, we may be uncovering some new knowledge, or sometimes we may be using the already existing knowledge or existing information but trying to interpret it in a very new and creative manner so that we are able to come up with newer concepts, some newer methodologies, or some newer understandings. So we may be referring most of the time, we also refer to the research that has been done by people before us, but that is just taken as a cue, I should say, and we go ahead or try to interpret in a new manner, or we take it forward, adding some more value to it. So ultimately, we come out with some new or creative outcomes. So any research activity, it has two basic objectives. One is the discovery of new knowledge. And with this new knowledge, we also may be able to develop newer technologies. These newer technologies can be in terms of coming up with more efficient processes. The processes may be made more economical, more environmental friendly, more sustainable, or it can be in terms of designing better products, which are cheaper products, which are value added products, which may be having more features, or which are able to meet the emerging needs of the customers or the consumers or the market. Or it can also be in terms of the services that we are providing, better services that we are being able to provide to the community or to the customers or our consumers. So there is one more word that we hear a lot these days, and that is innovation. So I would also like to hear from you, like, what do you think is basically innovation, and is it related to research? Is there some relationship between research and innovation, or are these two different activities or different dimensions? Yes, please. I know it is an afternoon session, and I hope you all are with me, and my I am able to reach out to you. You can hear me.
Madam, innovation simply means that new way of doing something.
New way of doing something. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Vaibhav, for that. Anyone else would like to add something to it? So when we are adding something new to it, that is also invention also. So we are coming up with some new thing. So what is it in innovation that makes it different? So basically, when we are using the term innovation, innovation is the practical implementation of those new ideas. And these new ideas, they are having some novelty around it. There is some improvement in the existing methods or in the existing products. But one thing that is very important for an innovation is that it should lead to revenue generation. There has to be some value attached to it. There has to be some economic value attached to it, or there has to be some societal value attached to it. So, unless and until it has an economic value or it has a social value, we cannot term it as an innovation. So, innovation is basically, I should say, related to research also, because research is the engine which I say is which drives the innovation. Research acts as the ground or the fertile ground on which the innovation blooms ultimately. And this term innovation, this has become a buzzword. During the last few years, we are hearing a lot this term innovation. There are in IIC, your institution also must be having the IIC, Institution Innovation Councils. You also must be conducting activities like ideathons or hackathons for the students to give a platform to the students to come up with their new ideas. And the winners, if there are some students they are given some funding or they are given some grants. You also must be conducting some sessions or for the students to encourage them for startups, for entrepreneurship. So all these exercises, if you say, has been very positive in the sense that now we have emerged as the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. And just for the point of reference, as you see, in 2014, we had only 50 startups. Now there are more than 66,000 startups in the biotech sector in itself. And this has been, I should say, can be attributed to two major schemes of the government. One is the Startup India scheme, and second one has been the Stand Up India scheme. Startup India scheme, basically, if your idea or any individual's idea has the potential to grow into a company, you will be getting financial support. And this financial support is provided at very low interest rates. Apart from that, you are also mentored through industry experts, because mentoring by industry experts is very important, because unless and until you have that guidance from the people who are in the field, it sometimes becomes very difficult to take your innovation to that level. And also, if you see, the in January this year, we had completed 10 years of Startup India scheme. And just for the records, if you see, now there are over 2 lakh startups, 2 lakh startups as of January 2025. And one important, I should say, uh, contribution of this has been that it has also led to new job creations. Also, over 21 new jobs have been created. It has also contributed to the women empowerment, because almost 45% of these startups have at least one women director or one women partner. And another scheme, this one was the Startup India, and another one is the Stand Up India scheme. This Stand Up India scheme is basically for the marginalized sections of the society, whether it is the women entrepreneurs or the entrepreneurs from the SC/ST community. So this financial grants is provided to them to make them, to empower them, to make them more enterprising, and to provide some more employment opportunities to them. So just if you see, this is the one of the global innovation index that is declared every year. And as a point of reference, if you see, in 2015, we were at the 81st position. And as of 2025, in 10 years, we have jumped up to the 38th rank. And this giant leap, I should say, has been mm, majorly possible due to the emerging innovation ecosystem that we are able to build. And this has been possible due to the involvement of not only the public and private sectors, but academia has also played a very important role. And because it is in our campuses, in our institutions, where we are having that young population, the individuals who have that urge to experiment, to take the risk, right? So that through the various activities that are being conducted and the more focus that we see, the financial support that has been provided, so that has all contributed to this global innovation ecosystem, right? And just to cite few examples, we all know that how India has been a major contributor in many sectors, whether we take the IT industry or the automobile industry or the pharmaceutical sector or the telecommunication sectors. We are the leading manufacturers of products in all these sectors, and our products are exported globally. We are able to provide trained manpower for all these sectors. and even the new emerging areas of whether it is the IoT or data analytics, we have been making a major contribution. And just to cite one example from the pharmaceutical industry, and the colleagues who are here from the pharmacy, I have been told that there are many participants from the pharmacy background. You all will agree with me, like how the Indian pharmaceutical industry is fourth in number of, in terms of number of uh, products that we are manufacturing and how our products are exported globally. And even if we take one very specialized sector of vaccines, we know that the vaccine industry, the it has been able to come up with many indigenous products, and almost 60% of the global demand of the vaccines is met through Indian manufacturers. Every child is administered vaccine right after birth. Number of vaccines are administered, and it is said that any child who's receiving a vaccine, number of vaccines a child receives, but he or she will be receiving at least one vaccine which is manufactured in India. Even WHO procures 70% of its medicinal products from the uh, Indian manufacturers, because we are not only able to provide the products in quality products, but also at very economical prices also. And all this has been possible mainly due to the rigorous research activities that has been undertaken not only by the government institutes, but also by the private vaccine manufacturers. Now, we all know how the research has been contributing to our economy, and why is it important for the industries to invest in research. But now the question that will certainly come to our minds is like, why should we in higher education institutions be engaged in research? So, any inputs from you all? Why do you think it is important for us in higher education institutions also to engage in research? Yes, please. There are over 80 participants are here. So if some of you can just share. Because without your responses, it feels like I'm just talking to a wall. Yes, please.
To fulfill their core missions of learning, discovery, and innovation.
Yes, okay. Yeah, there is only one response. Dr. Vaibhav only is answering. Anyone else would like to add something to it? Why is it important for us to be engaged in research activities? Why shouldn't we all confine ourselves to only our teaching assignments? What are the benefits? What will happen if we are also engaged in research? Are you all there with me? Yes, participants, please.
Ma'am, participants are responding in the chat box, ma'am.
Responding in the chat box, okay, innovating something new, gain new knowledge for innovation, a new thing in a latest trend methodology for knowledge advancements, okay, ensures accuracy and reliability, accreditation and rankings, develop skills, okay, yes. Okay, so why do we want to engage in research? Because as faculty members, when we are engaged in research activities, what happens is we also remain updated. We remain updated about the recent developments in our specific domain. Our understanding further deepens. And with this new understanding, with new knowledge, we are able to bring that to our classrooms. So our students are also benefited. And if you take any institution which focuses on research, if you're focusing on research, you will be able to attract the meritorious students to enroll in your institution. The retention of the faculty members will also be higher because the teachers have the opportunity to be engaged in research activities apart from their teaching assignments. Similarly, as one of the participants very rightly pointed out, that it is important for accreditation and for the various ranking also. And if you see in both NIRF, if you see, or NAC, if you see, there is considerable weightage is being given to the research and its related outputs, like how many uh, s- research funds you have garnered from various external funding agencies, what are the various how many publications, because that is also a direct output of the research, how many patents you have applied for, whether your institution is giving some seed grant to the faculty members or not, right? And it also gives us an opportunity to develop the critical thinking skills in the students, because when we are giving some projects to the student, assignment that we are giving, if it is a research based assignment is there, the student will have to go through the literature, analyze it, and then come up with a report or something. Although the student may be using the various AI tools, but at least in that exercise, they will be coming across many new things and they will try to understand how to acquire newer developments, what are there existing in their fields. And also, it also creates a very dynamic academic environment, because if research is the focus in your institution, you will see that you will be able to attract uh, scholars from other institutions who will be visiting to your institutions, the faculty members and scholars from your institute, they will be participating in various academic forums, they will be presenting their research in various academic events. So all this exercise creates a very dynamic environment. Similarly, it also may lead to groundbreaking discoveries also. As you know, during the COVID time, the vaccine which was introduced in the US market by Johnson and Johnson, that was based on the research that was done by some of the scientists at the Harvard University. And also, it also gives us a tool through which we can improve the lives of the people around us. Because, as I said earlier, also, as higher educational institutions, it is our responsibility to ensure that whatever skills that we are acquiring, whatever skills our students are acquiring, whatever new knowledge they are exploring, that should ultimately benefit the community or the society around us. So, through research, we have a way in which we can suggest or find some solutions to the problems that the people may be having. Last but not the least, it is also a very important tool, I should say, for fund mobilization also. Because as I mentioned earlier also, research, it is a very fund intensive activity. You require funds for the research, and if your institution, normally the institutions do not have much budgetary allocation for supporting the research work. So what you have to do, we have to identify some external funding agency, write research proposals, submit to them. And if your research proposals are accepted, your institution will be getting some additional funding, which will be helpful for further augmenting the infrastructure of your institution. Similarly, research also gives us a platform through which we can collaborate or form partnerships with other institutions or with other researchers. Because many a times in our institutions, we may not be having the requisite infrastructure, or we may not be having some equipments that are required for a research project. So what we can always do is we can go for a joint research proposal. Similarly, if it is a multidisciplinary research proposal and if there is no uh, expertise within your institution, we can always collaborate with other institutions. So in this way, research also gives us a way in which we can collaborate with other institutions, right? And also, this is the reason why the research has to be emphasized in our higher education institutions also. Now, whenever we are talking about research, the big question that always arises is about the funding, right? So before we go and explore the funding opportunities that are available, we have to first understand like how much do we spend on R&D. And if you see this is basically described through the gross expenditure on R&D, that is GERD. And if you can just go through this graphical representation, you will observe that what we are spending on research, that is very, very low in comparison to what other developed countries are spending, whether it is Germany or UK or US. But even smaller countries, say like Malaysia or Mexico or Russia or South Africa, they are also spending much more than what we are spending. And if you just observe this graph where although it is old data till 1617, but this trend has continued, you will see that over the years, as can is depicted through these blue bars, you can see our expenditure on R&D has increased. But this is only half the side of the story, because if you closely observe these red lines, which is the like how much of the GDP, how much percentage from the GDP we are spending on R&D, you will observe that this has remained constant around somewhere around 0.68 to 0.70. And why this number is important? This is important because this is one of the indicators which are used, which are published by the World Bank. That is the World Development Indicator, like how much from the GDP we are spending on research. And if you just for comparison, if you see these economies which are uh, developed economies, whether it is Germany or Japan or China, our biggest competitor in the global market, or US, their GDP is already very high. And out of that GDP also, they are spending from 2.4 to 3.46 on research, whereas we are spending only 0.65 percentage on the research. And if we just try to break up like what sectors are majorly contributing to spending on research, you will observe that our research funding is basically sourced through government agencies, then private business enterprises, then higher education sector itself, they have certain budgetary allocation, and the private non-profit organization. If you just observe here for the India where it is highlighted, you will observe that for us, majority of the spending of research is sourced through government agencies. That means our dependency on government funds for research is way too high. 56.1 percentage of our research budget is funded by government. Whereas for other countries, if you observe, that is relatively very, very low. But for private business enterprises, the contribution is relatively lower. That is only 36.8 of the research funding is through private business enterprises. Whereas if you see for uh, other countries like South Korea or Japan, where they have almost 80% of their funding is through private business enterprises. And higher education also, their contribution is relatively less. And the contribution of the private non-profit organizations, that is also relatively less or almost negligible. So this, the purpose of just showing you this spending, how we are spending on R&D, that is also to have a look into the opportunities that are existing before us to get funding from other sectors also, because we cannot merely depend upon the various government funding agencies to uh, fuel the research that we are undertaking in our institutions. But for that, we also have to look into it, like the funding from the industries is 36.8, and if you want to increase that, the opportunity exists. But again, we will have to look into, and we have to retrospect, like what is the nature of the research that we are doing. It is a sad reality, I should say, that the majority of the research that we do in educational institutions, that somehow remain confined within the thesis or within the dissertation, or they are going into publications, and that publications also may not be in some quality journals. Just getting the number of publications, the quantitative increment is the main target by us, where it is only used as a tool, I should say, to increase our API points, which will be helpful for our career progression of the teachers, right? But if we want to get the funding for research from private business enterprises, merely the number of publications is not going to attract the funding. We will have to go for the quality research, because industry has sufficient funds for research, for funding for research, but their expectation is always to come up with a tangible outcomes. Unless and until your research is able to provide some viable solution, some practical solution to their problem, they are not going to fund you, right? So that is one thing where I think we will have to think upon, and we have to see to it that our publications are not just an addition to one more number in our biodata, but it should be a contributor to the new knowledge addition in that particular domain. And also, somehow it is also uh, observed that the majority of the funding, that the government funding comes for the research, that is almost 50% is channeled to the defense research and to the space research. And although this investment has also paid rich dividends, and because we all know where our space research and defense research stands, and how so many milestones have been achieved by the scientists in these areas. So now coming to the NEP, now NEP, what is NEP saying about research? NEP very categorically points out that research and innovation, they are an important aspect to enhance the quality of education. When we are talking about increasing or improving the quality of education, that cannot be achieved only by uh, uh, creating some infrastructure or making good classrooms or only by teaching. It has been emphasized that research and innovation also has to be an important or integral part of our higher education. And it has also been highlighted that we will have to promote quality research within the higher educational institutions. And it has also been emphasized that we will have to integrate research, innovation, and technology development, because unless and until we are able to integrate these three components, research, innovation, and technology, we may not be able to achieve or reach realize the uh, potential to be the Atmanirbhar Bharat or self-reliant India. So for that, it is very important that research segment also has to be strengthened. So what is NEP saying about R&D? One is the establishment of the NRF, and in that lines the Anusandhan National Research Foundation (ANRF) that has been established, and this you can say it is an apex body for research and innovation, and its basic objective is to uh, strengthen the research and innovation, and also to assure that there is economic and social impact of the research. So you will see that the whatever research projects are being called through ANRF, most of them, the areas that has been assigned to it are targeted on those domain specific areas which have direct implication in these areas. And it has also been emphasized that whenever you are doing research, we in the academic institutions, we will have to work in collaboration not only with other academic institutions but also with the industry, with the various government agencies, and also with the research institutions. So the currently, if you see the some of the domain areas which have been identified under the ANRA, they include the natural sciences, including mathematical sciences, engineering, technology, environmental and earth sciences, and health and agriculture. But that doesn't mean that there can be no involvement of the researchers from the humanities or the social sciences background, because if you want to take the findings from of research from these areas to the society, to the community, we will also need the expertise of the people from the social sciences and humanities as well. Another highlight of the national education policy is the emphasis on multidisciplinary approach in education. So whenever we are talking about multidisciplinary education, somehow we always think that this only is related to giving more choices to the students. For example, if a student say want to take one subject from study major subjects from say science and technology, and as a minor subject they can take from humanities or social sciences or vocational education, so that choice is to be given, no doubt. But apart from that, we also have to appreciate that when a student is exposed to multidisciplinary uh, education, the student is able to develop four important skills. Now, what are these four important skills? They are able to nurture a curious mind, curiosity, because when they get exposure from different subjects, they also try to explore their creativity also, and it also helps them to develop analytical and critical thinking abilities. And these four skills are very important, because unless and until an individual is nurtured on these four important skills, they may not be able to form the right research question. And the forming of a right research question is very important, because unless and until you form a good research question, whatever your research is, they may not come up with some relevant outcomes or solutions, or it may not have some practical utility. So with this, the NEP has also proposed for the development of R&D cells, for the establishment of R&D cells in the institutions. So I would like to know from you whether you have an R&D cell in your institution. Yes, if some of you can just share, do you have an R&D cell in your institution? Yes, please. Yes, do you have an R&D cell?
Yes, madam. We do have in our
Yes.
college.
Okay, which institution?
Yes, madam.
SSBT Engineering College, Bamburi, Jalgaon,
Okay.
from
Yeah,
Maharashtra.
Maharashtra. And what are the activities that are being conducted through the R&D cells?
In R&D, definitely the publication by the faculty in the various journals, and then getting the funds from various agencies, uh, from
Okay,
from university level, state level, and then
okay,
the students participate in the hackathon. Definitely, that is not the faculties, but participation of the students in hackathon also. And then e-Yantro lab is there of IIT Mumbai,
okay,
and then some innovation camps we organize here.
okay.
Such type of activities are being conducted there.
Conducted. Okay. So,
Mhm.
like, is the R&D cell being formed as per the UGC guidelines, or because I don't know the AICT guidelines is
Because
not.
we belong to the colleges are affiliated to the as per the AICT guidelines.
Yeah, yeah.
So they
But
are being followed there.
yeah, but now since like we may be moving towards the one uniform council, so higher education council maybe, but it is just a guideline that the UGC has come up with. You can just go through it and maybe you can just follow or
Because
implement
madam,
some
that
of.
because we are knowing that the UGC, AICT, all those are being going to be merged into one body there, and then
Yes,
there will be some new guidelines. But currently, definitely, we are under the AIC, we are
under
affiliated
the
to the AICT, and we are
AICT.
following
Yeah.
those AICT guidelines there.
Yeah, yeah, but that is there.
Mhm.
But you can always also refer to these UGC guideline on
Yeah,
R&D
yes.
cell, so that will
Okay.
help you to further strengthen the existing R&D cell that you are having. And it is
Mm-hmm.
a very small document, hardly 6 to 7 pages are there. And
Mm-hmm.
what they had suggested is because why the need for R&D cell is important is because you all will agree that as faculty members in higher education institutions, we are very we are not very ready to collaborate with the people from other disciplines. Like, okay, for example, if we are from pharmacy or from engineering or technology, we may not be very adaptable to collaborate with the uh, institutions or researchers from the humanities or the social sciences.
You
So
are saying
we,
multidisciplinary,
yeah,
exactly.
multidisciplinary, and that is one of the purpose of R&D cell to create an ecosystem where we can go for multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary research. And it is also important that your institution should have a research policy. There has to be a research policy. You should identify the thrust areas. Like what will be the thrust areas of
Mhm.
research of your institution? And whenever you are deciding on the research priorities, it is always suggested that you take those areas which are aligned with the national and the regional needs or the priorities, because that makes it much more easier for us to have collaborative research and have some research under MOU with some national institutions also.
Yes,
Another
yes.
purpose of R&D cell is to help or guide the faculty members in writing research proposals, because once you have identified the thrust areas, Then through the R&D cell, you can identify what are the funding agencies where the projects must be submitted, and writing research proposals. You all know it is a art and science both. And the some of the faculty members may be very good at writing good research proposals, so they can be used as mentors to help the other faculty members in writing research proposals that can be submitted to various funding agencies. And also, whenever we are going for multi-institutional or multidisciplinary research where multiple partners may be involved, then the issues of IPR also comes, because what will be the sharing of the IPR that are coming out of the research. So for that, it is important that your institution should also have a IPR policy in place so that there are no conflicts later on, right? And also because research is a continuously evolving field, and as you suggested, as you said, that you also conduct some seminars and workshops for the students and faculty members, and mentoring of the students for innovation and hackathons. The students will be participating, but mentoring also has to be provided to the through the teachers. And also how to monitor and evaluate the research activities, because sometimes the progress of the research may not be quantitative during the initial levels, but regular monitoring is important, so that systems should be developed so that there is a periodic update is taken from the uh, uh, faculty members who are engaged in research regarding the progress of their research, and also how to disseminate the research findings, your publications. You can also have some, many of the institutions have these schemes where there are some incentives are given to the teachers as a for motivating them to go for more such publications. And also it is important that whatever research outputs that we are getting, that should also be taken to the society also. Then you must also have engage in some outreach activities, so that there is that scientific social connect that is also being emphasized a lot these days. So what has been suggested in the policy, you can just go through it. Like there has to be a research advisory council which will be chaired by the principal if it's a college, and if it's a university, the vice chancellor, or they can nominate someone to be the chairperson. Then there can be a director of R&D cell who will act as a convener. And because there are so many of different activities are involved, so separate different committees can be constituted for decentralizing the various activities also. So you can just refer to it and see to it like how you can implement it in your institutions. And one more thing I would like to share, because sometimes reforming the research in higher education institutions may not be a very easy task, because again, you require a fund for uh, augmenting the infrastructure. Research has many recurring costs also that also has to be taken into account. But there are some small steps that we can be taken, uh, which I think can be easily, or they are very practical way uh, of strengthening the research in our institutions. One is to partner or collaborate with others. As I mentioned earlier, also sometimes we may not be having all the facilities at our end, or all the expertise that we may require. So we can always partner or collaborate with other researchers or with other institutions. And also we can encourage student research programs. As you know, like earlier, only some professional courses only, they were offered as 4-year courses, whether it is B Tech, B Farm, or other medical and paramedical courses. But now, even the regular UG programs, BA, BSc, BCom, they are also being offered as a 4-year program, 4-year undergraduate program. And the students who are scoring 75% or 7.5 CGPA during the first 3 years, they will have the opportunity to earn their credits in the fourth year by doing some project work. And such students, they will be getting the degree that BA with research, BA honors with research, or BSc honors with research. And such students can also directly enroll for the PhD programs also. And even for like in the B Farm also, or in the BTech also, we have these projects are there, right? So these are also one of the opportunities where we can assign some small and some meaningful research project for the students, so that they have that learning. And also we have some additional hands at our end to engage or to pursue the research in our particular domain area. Another is by offering research and teaching assistantship to the students, like both undergraduate student and PG students. They can be offered research and teaching assistantship, because uh, by this, the students may be working closely with a faculty member who has some projects. And this serves two purposes. One, they will be getting a hands-on training on the various aspects of the research, and also they will be getting some remuneration, which will be helpful for the economically needy students. Another is the need to update our libraries and databases, because unless and until our students and our faculty members, they have the access to latest uh, resources or databases, we cannot expect them to do meaningful research. Because research now, there are so many platforms are there through which you can access full text papers, but still there are some limitations to it. And earlier it was certainly a difficult task for us, because the subscription of all these quality journals is very costly, very prohibitive. The subscription of one journal can runs in lakhs, and the institutions certainly do not have the budget to invest in the subscription of majority of the quality journals, right? But now one thing that has been introduced is the ONOS, One Nation, One Subscription. Have you heard about this? One Nation, One Subscription? Yes. Any responses? So One Nation, One Subscription, this is one of the, I should say, very ambitious projects of the central government, where they have this portal is there, ONOS. The access to that portal is through the InflipNet. If your institution is connected through InflipNet, then you can have the access to this One Nation, One Subscription. And for now, this scheme was implemented in the year 25 on a pilot basis, 20, for 3 years, 25, 26, and 27. And this is being extended to over 6,300 institutions. And these are majorly the government higher educational institutions and the public R&D labs. And through this portal, they are able to reach out to over 1.8 crores of students, faculty, and researchers. And the best thing is that on this single platform, they have taken the subscription for certain e-journals. So over 13,000 e-journals, they can be accessed through this portal. And the one, because earlier every institution will be taking have to take the separate subscription for these journals, but now through this platform the government has taken the subscription from leading 30 to 32 publishers. And they are also, I should say, this facility is being accessed through number of students and researchers, and over, as you can see here, more than 6,500 active members. They are being they are availing these facilities. And more than 13 crore full text downloads have been recorded up to May 2026. So, if even if your institution is not having access to it, you can always uh, visit the library of any other institution which may be having the access to this portal and get the benefit from this very accessible source. So just quickly, I would like to give you a glimpse of the research activities that are being conducted and how we have been able to strengthen the research in our university, Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University, Raipur. Being a state university, we have limited funds for the research, right? But our faculty members over the years, we have been writing research proposals, submitting it to various funding agencies, and we have been able to get research projects in through many of these sponsoring agencies. And also we have benefited through the various sponsoring schemes, whether it is the DST FIST, which was being extended earlier, or UGC SAP. And 2 years back, we also got a grant of 10 crores from the DST PERS. And recently, we had also, under the ANRF pair hub and spoke also model also, we are now a part of that project also. And the major benefit is certainly that through these research projects, we have been able to strengthen the research infrastructure. A number of facilities are now available in the university. Many state-of-the-art labs are present, and many of the facilities, they are one of its kind in this entire region. So we have to just appreciate that teaching and research, there has to be a connection between the two, because the modern universities were established with the belief that these will be those centers where there will be a connection between teaching and research. But when I say this, there may be many of you who may not agree with me, because we feel that taking both together, teaching and research, is not possible, because some of us may be more interested in research, and for them teaching assignments appear like a burden. And for many of us who want to escape from research, we will always feel that I have so much of uh, teaching load that I am unable to devote time for research. But this is entirely separate from the requirements of the from a higher teacher in the higher education institution, because it is not a coincidence that we as teachers from universities and colleges, we are also PhDs. And even if we are not PhD, we look for the first opportunity to register for a PhD program and earn this research degree. We may be taking it up with the purpose of our own career advancement, but we have to understand that when we are able to, why this requirement has been made that a teacher in the higher education has also to be a PhD, because many of the aspects of teaching and research, they are common, whether we are talking about pursuit of knowledge or curiosity or rationality. The teachers also have to be researchers. And when we are able to integrate teaching and research, our students are benefited and our own research is also benefited. So, how does it benefit the student learning? Because when we are engaging the student in some research project, some research based assignment, the student find it more interesting. If you're just delivering them lectures in the classrooms, they may not find it very interesting, because when they are working on a research project, they learn what is the research methodology, how the things work, how new knowledge production actually takes place. And the student are also able to connect, like how whatever they are studying in their course, whatever they are studying in their theory, what is it's relevant in the practical life. That may not be the issue when we are talking about applied areas like engineering, technology, or pharmacy. But for the other uh, basic courses sometimes that connect. The student is not able to connect, like what I'm studying in the theory class, how is it relevant for me in the daily life? But through research, the student will appreciate that fact. Similarly, as teachers, our research also improves, because it might have been your experience also, but at least it has been mine, that there were many topics which were I found them difficult when I was a student. Uh, I I just passed the examination, but there was limited clarity on those particular topics, or on those subjects, I should say. But now, as a teacher, when I have been teaching those subjects for the last 25 years, now after each class, I am gaining more clarity on many of these topics, right? So, similar is the case with the research also. When we are discussing or when we are explaining it to the students, our research thoughts get more clarity, while guiding the students for their research projects. We also have to keep ourselves updated. We have to go through the recent literature. And in this process, we are able to see what are the latest developments that are taking place in our field, and we are able to see the bigger picture of research. And also, when the student comes to us with questions or queries, our research also gets newer directions. So, how can we connect teaching and research in our classrooms? One is during our lectures, at least some few minutes, 3 to 4 minutes, whatever topic that we are discussing or teaching in the class, we should try to share with the students, like what is its relevance, what is its practical utility, or what are the current research that is going on that particular area. So that should at least help to spark some interest in the students for the research that can happen. Also, when we are invited as guest speakers in many forums, and we can use this opportunity to showcase the research that is being undertaken in our university, in our college, in our institute, or in our department, or in our own lab. And even if we are not invited, in the present times when there are so many social media platforms, we can always make some small videos related to our research and post it on our social media handles. Or we can have some podcast where we can showcase the research that is being undertaken in our institute. Similarly, we can the seminars that we do where we are assigning some topic to the student comes prepared about it, and for that they will have to read through extensive literature. They will also develop a critical engagement can be achieved through this exercise. The tutorial sessions that we are having, where we may be engaging with a smaller group of students or individual students, because sometimes in a class of 60, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 students may be interested in research, but at least these students should be given proper time where they can come to us and clarify their doubts or queries that they are having related to research. Similarly, we can also plan some workshops for the students where the we are maybe uh, there may be many softwares that we might be having in our institute, where the students are not exposed to it because that may not be a part of their curriculum. But learning that skill, or learning the having hands-on experience on that equipment, can be helpful for them, or on that software will be helpful for them in the future. So we can plan some workshops by using these softwares or these equipments. And also, there are now so many online platforms are there. We can have closed WhatsApp groups or some email groups where we can share the research related materials with the students and answer to the queries which are related to research. So these are some of the small ways in which we can connect teaching and research. But it is important that whatever areas of research that we are identifying, they should be in line with local, national, and regional priorities. And why this is important? Because unless and until we are conducting research in such areas, it will not be helpful for us to go for interdisciplinary research, and whatever our research is, that may just remain confined in some project report, and it will not have a benefit to the society. So since time is running out, and I would just like to share how or why it is important for us to go for interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary research. And just to share this small video with you, even if the audio is not if you're not here able to hear to it, I think you can always read the subtitles. So I hope you will be able to appreciate why interdisciplinary research is important, because whatever problems that we are having around us, all these problems are multidimensional, they are complex problems, and one discipline alone may not be able to fully understand that problem and offer solutions to it. And when we work together as an interdisciplinary team, there is more innovation happens. The quality of the research also improves because each discipline brings with it its own methodologies, its own data sources, its own analytical tools, which enhances the quality. And it also broadens the perspective also, because when we are working as a research, as a team member, we have our own biases, our own inhibitions, which are guided by the our subject domain, right? But when we are working with people from other disciplines, we try to we develop an understanding to look at the problem from a new angle or from a new perspective also. But most importantly, why it is important is that it also increases the funding opportunities. Because if you see the government agencies who are offering the research projects, they are all majorly the areas that come up are some complex social challenges, societal challenges, whether it is climate change or it is some public health issue. And for all that, we will have to come together as a multidisciplinary team. So, with that, I would like to end the session. If you have any observations, you can uh, share it here, speak out, or you can also reach out to me at this mail ID. And thank you very much for the patient listening. I hope very few of you have responded, but I hope I was able to reach out to you, and there is
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
some new perspective. Yes, thank you.
Yes, any questions? If you have any questions or the queries? If not, we can conclude.
Yes.
I think, ma'am, we should conclude if you could permit.
Yes, sure. Thank you then.
So on behalf of Malvi Mission Teacher Training Center and Gadge Baba Amravati University, College of Engineering and Technology, Bambori, Jalgaon, I extend my sincere thanks to Professor Suresh ma'am for such a wonderful session towards the adoption and the implementation of this transdisciplinary interdisciplinary research. Definitely, ma'am, your inputs will be very valuable because now in the recent career we are entering in this research, and whatever may be the views you have presented here, that inputs are very valuable for us, and definitely we are trying to inculcate in our research purpose in the futuristic planning our research. So with this, I once again extend my sincere thanks for your thought-provoking session and precious time here. And with the kind consent of Professor Suresh ma'am, I would like to declare that this session will be over. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. And thank you, participants.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, and wishing you all the